Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
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 Good morning.
So, we have, is Frank on? Frank Delpeche? I know there's some interesting numbers coming out on the economics, and I think inflation wound up being a little higher than we had hoped, unfortunately. Giving Frank 1, 2, or 3? No? Okay. All right. So today's session is it's inspired by my trip to Tucson, and it was inspired by a lender that I spoke to about having the discipline of doing certain tasks every single day, and it did remind me of some teams that had used the same discipline in real estate. Okay, so for all of us, what's old is new, what's new is old, and if you can own the discipline of waking up every morning with a purpose, right, and knowing exactly what you're going to do, who you're going to call, all while thinking about how you're going to add value along the way, that's the benefit of today's session, is to not have to think about what's today's activities, or not allow circumstance, some home inspector that gave a lousy report, now you have to fix it. Some appraiser that's coming in low. These things happen all the time. These are procedural things that we need to do to get transactions closed. But these are the precise things that put us on the real estate roller coaster. Okay, they take us off of the gradual building process. The best of the best agents know that next year is going to be more abundant than this year, despite what the market does. It makes no difference what the market does. Our limiting factor is our time. And if you think about it, like, anybody ever heard the saying, like, if you only improve 1% per day, what that would do to you?
Yeah, atomic habits.
Right. 1% a day over the period of a year is not 365%. It's something like 2,000%. Right.
Yep.
And 2,000%, for us real estate professionals, 2,000% is not double, it's 20 times the impact. Okay. So, knowing what you're going to do and having that purpose and doing it the same every day has a tremendous benefit. Okay. Not worrying about, I don't want you to show hands, but I'll bet you a lot of us are concerned about what the market does and how that's going to impact us next year. Okay. I don't know if Howard Lean might not be on today, but franchise business owners, we're not concerned about that. We know that we have to grow every single year, despite what the market does, despite what the interest rates do, despite whether there's a buyer's or a seller's market. Okay. As I look around, I mean, I don't see anybody on who has their camera on that's been in the business less than 5 years. Is anybody with the camera on that's been less than 5 years? Ryan, Kelly, Nick, and did Anna, did you raise your hand? Yes or no? No? Okay. So only a couple of them, only a couple of you are less than 5 years. But I will tell you, if you're committed to the business, the market conditions should have nothing to do with your income. Zero. And I'm not hesitating one bit. The only people who are influenced by the market conditions are the people who have bad habits or have no habits. Okay. When you know exactly what you're doing every day, you wake up with a purpose. And I think even just writing that down, wake up every morning with a purpose, right? Instead of waking up, oh, I got to get up, right? The alarm clock, I feel miserable about getting up. Wake up with a purpose. This changes your mindset from that of most of the other agents who walk into the office and try to figure out what they're going to do today. And I'll bet you there are some people on this meeting here who wake up, go downstairs or go into the office, and then you decide what you're going to do. You don't know in advance what you're doing today. It's not a positive thing. When they sold you about the freedom of being self-employed, independent contractor, okay, that was all a hoax. You need to be able to have the discipline and the good business habits to provide recurring and increasing income over the period of time. You cannot fathom the impact that this clarity will have, the knowledge and discipline, the impact that clarity, knowledge, and discipline will have on your confidence, mindset, outlook, performance, and income. Okay? You cannot fathom the impact that clarity, knowledge, and discipline will have on your confidence, mindset, outlook, and income. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
I believe we are the creators of our own destiny.
And I want to give, thanks, Colleen. I want to give credit to who this was, but I can't remember who recently told me this. But they said every Sunday, okay, they find time, they find me time to create their business plan for the week. Okay. As a matter of fact, one other thing that this same individual had, and I wish I could remember who it was. They said that they read their business plan every day. Said they read their business plan every day. It's like 2 paragraphs. So if you plan your week in advance, you need to plan your week in advance so you know what you'll be doing when you start your day. You don't walk into the office. You don't walk downstairs to your number one, when you do this, who starts work the same time or reasonably the same time every day? If you do, raise your hand. Okay. If some days you sleep in, some days you get up early, some day, like that some days philosophy is not good for continuity, consistency, and growth. I'm telling you from the bottom of my heart, I know it doesn't work that way. Okay. If we now get to the process of having a schedule, we get up the same time every day. We know what we're going to be doing. But also helpful to have a morning routine. Who has a healthy, both mentally and business-wise, morning routine? And anybody want to share what your morning routine is? Anybody that shared?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Okay. Affirmation. First thing is the gratitude after my coffee, and then affirmation. And stay away from the emails, and of course, you have to have the day planned. But the affirmation, gratitude, and I do have exercise in there as well, which is audiobook and cycle. Slow, just with my audiobook. Those three.
Now, Pavla, you're not reading the link I sent out, are you?
No. All I have here is take notes and my daughter's homework.
Right. I was being facetious, but in the link for the document I sent out, okay, have a morning routine. Get up the same time every day. Do something positive, both physically and mentally, right? So you said you exercise and you do an audio book, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Exercise, and then I put underneath that exercise or walk, and read, listen to a podcast, or watch a YouTube video that's relative to the business.
Well,
so we didn't conspire, just so everybody knows. That was Pavla's true thoughts, but it just correlates very well to.
It's not a secret, Rob. It's not a secret.
Yeah. So sometimes we, if you don't take care of yourself mentally, you don't have the energy. It doesn't matter how much willpower you have, you won't be effective. You won't be optimized without having a process. Okay. And another thing I think is very important, and I'm just going to repeat it, is you need structure. Okay. You need to show up at the same time every day, and you need to have your business plan, right? And you need to show up fully because we all have days that we show up and only half of us shows up. And I'm sure it happens to you, Pablo, too, right? You show up and you're out of balance business-wise,
Oh,
and it's usually something else that's causing it, right?
yeah. You didn't
So-
ask how many times a week I do that, but I do have one.
Um, and Wilson, this is give a wave there, Wilson from Tucson. This is from our second lender appointment that inspired this meeting. Okay. All right, you're on mute, but I saw that you acknowledged. So, do you remember he talked about like every day? Can you unmute yourself for a second there, Wilson?
Yeah, sorry.
So, I don't know how good of a lender that person was, but I do know this is that he was extremely loyal to his mentor in the business, right? And he said that he was tremendously more successful because of the leadership that was provided. And he said the entire company of 5 or 6 people, they don't want to have a lot of people that don't fit the culture. But every Monday they follow up with all the leads that they have from open houses. Every Tuesday they call real estate
Their
agents,
agents.
just try to create business relationships. Every Wednesday they talk to people who have a pre-approval, who haven't bought yet. And you get the picture, right? They have a structure. Every day is doing one thing for 4 hours. And I was very impressed by that. And it wasn't new to me, but it was something that I feel like I need to reiterate so that we can find our own rhythm. We can set up our week on a Sunday. And if you get into the habit of saying that these are the things that I do every day, and by no means am I saying this is the end all be all. And as a matter of fact, I want to get some input from the group. But here's just a sample of what I would say. Monday, follow up on the weekend activity, right? Schedule next steps and expectations. So if you met a homeowner, right, and you met them on Saturday morning and now it's Monday, follow up, say, hey, just wanted to check in, did you get the estimates to do the paint so we can get ready to put your house on the market? Talk to your buyers. I think our buyer conversations are very limited. They're kind of random. If you have buyers that are, hoping that something comes on the market that meets their needs, probably not the best idea. I'd like to give them quantifiable information like, hey, you know what, Wilson, I just took a look and in that price point, in that particular area you want to be in, I went on the MLS. I looked back 24 months. There's only about 1.5 properties that come on every month. Just wanted to set the right expectation for you. Okay. Maybe Tuesday is, call all buyers and sellers that you've been talking to that haven't completed a transaction. And you might want to go back to 21, 20, 22 when, your people were making 40 offers on a house, right? Where did all those buyers go, especially in Florida? What happened to them?
Yeah, good question.
Right? I mean, Ron Piccolo, remember like every property that came on that was not even priced right would have 10 offers. If it was priced right, it would have 40.
Sure do.
Now, do you have any listings now that are on for more than a week?
No, everything I have now is pending. I don't have anything active.
But the days on market for your competitors are racking up now, right?
Oh, sure are. Yeah, we look at our hard sheets every day.
So, I think there's a lot of people that did want to buy when the rates were 3%. Okay, they disappeared, but they probably still haven't bought their house yet. That might be our Tuesdays. Wednesdays, here's where it gets to be awkward, right? Get out of your comfort zone. Maybe you do a video CMA, okay, where you go through it with you on the bottom corner of the screen, talk to them about, here's the value of your house. You spend 5 minutes doing it, 10 minutes doing it. You send 5 of those out a day, 10 a day. I'll bet you many of us haven't sent out 10 in a year. I think if you sent out 10 a day, one day a week, it might change your life. It might change your career in a big way. Thursdays could be maybe you set up face-to-face meetings, right? With this high-tech world we're in, the value of face-to-face meeting, it's more unique now, right? Maybe we set up face-to-face meetings on Thursday. Maybe we send out handwritten thank you notes. Maybe we are intentional and we ask our affiliates for referrals. Okay, the last 2 days I was down in Atlantic City at the Realtors Convention. And I was asking the vendors and the people that I know in the industry for referrals. Hey, who do you know that's not happy where they're at? Who do you know that might benefit from some of the things that we're doing at Remax Select, right? And Beth, you know, I got, maybe it wasn't a good one, but I got a referral, right, from a guy that's putting signs up in our building, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not asking the people we give business to reciprocate and give you business back, you're missing an opportunity. If you're not asking the people you feed to feed you back in return, you're missing an opportunity. Okay. And don't assume because it's a home inspector, everybody, you know, most of their referrals is from real estate professionals. Don't assume that they're not going to give you the referral. They're probably not going to give you the referral because not many people are asking for business back. Okay. One of the top agents in the office here in Westfield, every time somebody comes to solicit her for business, she's like, let me explain to you how I work. You know, and Brian, I'm just going to role play with Brian Neubauer, or Neugebauer. Sorry about that.
All right.
So Brian, if I role play with you, I said, hey, Brian, appreciate you coming by here. I know you want some opportunities for mortgages or whatever you're selling. I say, you know, what I'd like to do first is I'd like to see how you work. And if you could refer 2 or 3 people to me, if we work well, then I'll start to give you some business back. A lot of people probably don't have referrals or will back away. That's an easy way to get rid of people soliciting you. And if they're good and they really want your business because you're quality, Brian, they're going to give you referrals. Who would have thunk,
Agreed.
right?
Agreed.
No.
Yeah, maybe not at that moment, but eventually, yes.
Well, at least you set the ground rules, right? And
Correct.
I will tell you that Sandy, who does this to people who solicit her, it works. Either they go away, or they'll say, hey, you know, I have this client, they're not committed to their agent, or I have this client, you know, it's awkward. The agent referred me, but they kind of abandoned them. Let me see if you could help them, right? Or, hey, you know, Brian, I have a bunch of these Zillow leads from an agent that left the business. You know, maybe we can get together and call them together. But you'll be surprised what you get when you open your mouth and you ask, right?
It is surprising. People want to help, and I think our society as a whole and every industry and facet of life have gotten away from asking for business.
Yep.
We just assume it's going to come.
Right. And Brian, how long have you been in the business?
23 years.
And if you were to answer this honestly, how much control does the 20% increase or 10% decrease in the market, how much does that impact what you expect to make next year?
Not a lot. If you listen to the news, you're going to drown. So I just try to tone all that stuff out because the media is so negative. So I just focus on what I can control, and that's getting in front of people.
And if you did everything that you know you should be doing, would a decrease of 20% of volume in the market have any impact on you?
If I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing, no.
It's the 23 years of experience, and you know, the way that you answered that speaks volumes. It wasn't a coerced response because you know that if you do all the right things, your business is going to grow year over year over year over year. It's that compound effect, right? I asked, Pablo, if you get 1% better, you said, was that Atomic Habits that you were referencing that talked about that, Pablo?
But I don't know what you mean by common cabinet. It was Atomic Habits, maybe? Was that
Yeah,
the book?
right, which talks about the impact of improving by
Right.
1% a day, right? Or 1% a week, right? The impact that has over time is just astronomical.
It's a compound effect of that number, just like.
Correct. So the market impacts you.
And Rob, I think there's also one thing you forgot to mention is when the market goes down, usually, even though there is a less amount of transactions being done, the agents go out of the business and they get all depressed and scared. So they get less of that. So then you can see the differentiation between the agents that do go after that business, whatever is there to be done. More
Right.
often. More.
So that's a good thing as long as you're not one of those scared, depressed agents.
That's right. That's why we have
Exactly.
you, right?
Yeah, that's why you're here. You know, but I mean, the impact, the market really has no impact. There is there's a story, and I'm going to say this just because it highlights a point. We had probably 15 years ago, we had a dispute with an agent who pretty much seemed to be unskilled. And I called his broker, and Tommy, if he was a day old, was in his late 70s, and his broker was probably the same age or older. And I called her up, her name was Ruth. And I said, Ruth, I have this problem. It's just like not following the process. He's just a problem. And she answered to me like this, Rob, Tommy, he's a good boy. He's been with me for 43 years, but can I tell you what the problem is? I'm like, okay, Ruth, what's the problem? He's repeated his first year 43 times. Think about that, right?
Same transactions, yeah.
I mean, he's doing the same thing year in and
Okay.
year. He's not getting any better. And it was just, it resonated with me so much because she's like, Tommy, he's a good boy, because she's seeing him from when he was in his 30s, right? That's when she met him, right? And that's how she's talking to me. But, don't repeat your first year 43 times. Don't repeat it 3 times. Okay. Let's take the collective knowledge. Let's take the time to spend in the morning to keep our mind fresh. Let's spend our Saturday or Sunday planning out our week ahead, so that when we get up at the same time every day and we show up to perform, we know exactly what we're doing, right? We're doing it better today than we did yesterday, right? And it's all for servicing the clients, right? Who knows Zig Ziglar's famous quote? Anybody? Somebody knows it, and I'm not going to say it.
You can
You
have
YouTube it.
everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
That's the one. I believe that to the core, right? If you just help people, it's impossible for you not to have abundance yourself, right? If you just help enough people get what they need, what they want, what they dream and desire for, you will have everything that you need for certain. Period, exclamation point, end of story. And this is just my own, Friday, just wrapping it up. And I want to get some opinions from the group of what would be a good routine in your opinion. But maybe Fridays is, search for matches instead of showings and weekend activity. And I don't mean, clients know this, but you go next level, you have intention. Okay, this is a strategic approach, not just an MLS search base. Okay, this is where you look at it and you say, there's nothing that meets Ron Piccolo's needs. However, maybe if we do a 203K, we move one town over and we get creative. We can solve for that problem. We can create a solution to the answer. these are things. Abe, are you looking to share something or no? You're on mute, sir. Abe? Hello? You're still on mute, Abe.
I can kind of hear him though.
I can't hear him.
Here, let me see if I'll try to text him.
Yeah.
Because he usually, I think he has good insight to things.
Yeah, so when he figures that out, we'll listen to some of his wisdom. But here's a story. I don't know if Julie Grayman am I saying that right, Howard?
Yeah.
Grayman?
Yeah, it's Julie Grauman.
Grauman, okay.
Grauman.
She had reached out to me and said that she had a listing that she was chasing the market down. And I was on the floor of the convention. I kind of went on their Wi-Fi and we shared screens and we did a property analysis. And she was afraid she was going to lose the listing because of a third price repositioning, and the listing expired at the end of the year. So we gave her some data. We created a story around it, and the story was based on what needed to be done. She got a 1 month extension to the listing, and I think it was a $25,000 or $35,000 price improvement. Okay, and if you ever have a listing that's going in the wrong direction, okay, or if you're a lender and you have issues. When I was managing lenders, I used to tell people, there was a large deposit or there was a change of employment or whatever happened, right? That was the last file they wanted to look at. They put it in the drawer. Now I know that this is old school because now everything's online, but they put it in the desk drawer and they would not look at it for a while, hoping it would get better, like a mushroom in the dark. It doesn't work. If you have a listing that's not on track, let's be proactive about it, right? And let's be honest about it. The seller wants to sell a property. We need to have a honest conversation. Julie learned how to export all the data from the MLS, create a spreadsheet that could create a better picture for the seller to make the right decision for themselves, right? Otherwise, we would have just been 3 more weeks, the thing would have expired, and she might have lost somebody that she did 2 or 3 or 4 transactions with throughout her career and tarnished her reputation.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. What I try to share with you is every morning I wake up with the same routine, which I learned from a fellow by the name of Richard Flint over 30 years ago, stating, what am I doing today to create a possibility? I'll never forget it. I use it effectively and it works. It's worked all these years. So why stop now?
Yep. And, I'm going to put you on the spot and say, the other day we had a great call, and I don't know, how is it looking with Kevin, by the way?
He's supposed to call me back this morning or today. I'll follow it up right after this and call him.
But we had a great meeting. Kevin was engaged. If he comes, it's because we did the right thing. If he doesn't come, maybe it's not meant to be. But I just really feel like we did the best possible. We did the best possible conversation. And then Abe called me up and he said that it's amazing. I feel good about it. What did you say when you called me up afterwards, Abe? Because it was inspiring for me.
I said, I don't know what you do, but you have a way of knocking me off of my chair every time you get in front of somebody. You have the ability to
No, but
really
what did you
get
say? What
involved.
did you say about how that makes you feel, though?
It makes me feel more important than I was still want to work with you, work through you, work with you. get you involved.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a shameless ploy to get a compliment, but Abe said like it was inspiring for him when he's able to communicate and help people. And I interpret it as you get up with more purpose in the morning. That was what that's how I processed our conversation. That was very encouraging and inspiring for me. Does anybody have days of the week that they focus on certain things that they want to share with the group? Not all at once.
Hey, Rob,
Yes.
I have a thought that put our topic this morning in 18 more days.
Good morning. Very
Hold
nice.
on.
I'm good. Look, he's gonna be in Florida next Wednesday. I'm gonna see if
Unmute yourself, Howard. He was making an appointment for me.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. Am I open now? Okay. So my thoughts as we're gathering our ideas here is that in 18 more days, we're all going to be searching for our New Year's resolutions and what we're going to be doing to better ourselves personally and our businesses. And the topic you've got this morning is one that can be expanded in a number of directions, but it's really, really well worth expanding. And if you're looking for something to put on the map for 2025, the establishment of daily and weekly habits has got to be number one. And I would really encourage everybody to take a good hard look at it. The other thing I would say is Brian Neugebauer, he and I have visited and worked with each other for well over a decade. Interestingly enough, he said this morning that his business doesn't really fluctuate that much during market trends. What I've noticed with Brian over the years is when we get to talk to each other, very rarely does he complain about the market. What he usually does is, Howard, what do you think of this? Here's an idea. What do you think I should do with it? Have you seen it working anywhere else? In other words, he's come to the post instead of grousing about issues in the marketplace. Who cares? It is what it is. I mean, we're like farmers. We're like farmers. And a farm, it's either too wet or too dry or too wet, too cold or too wet. There's always something wrong with a farmer. And we don't want to be a farmer. We want to be a farmer to the good point. But Brian, the last idea he came to me with was, and I don't want to spill your beans, but he said, there's got to be a bunch of old people in our office. I said, good God, we got a bunch of them. He said, I would love to be able to take over their business. I'd love to have you work with me and see if there's one or two that I could assume their business so that they can gracefully lead the business. And what a good thought. You've got, Rob, you got 750 agents scattered across the country. I'd love to know how many of them are thinking of aging out, and what a good solution it would be to have an agent taking over the business while it's still there. And there's another idea for 18 days from now when we're working on New Year's resolutions and how we're going to make 2025 the year that it really should be. Just a thought.
Nope. And a good one as always, Howard. A lot of these things are interconnected, okay? And all of us are going to face times when we need to have an exit strategy from our business. And, why not, have the best possible harvest, to use the farm analogy, by keeping everything organized so that you have something that you can easily sell. And even if you don't have the intention of selling it for a decade or two, it would be nice to have everything aligned. So, hashtag past customers, you have everything somewhere where if I were to ask you, can you share with me who are all your past clients that you transacted with? You can find them in a moment. Do you have everybody in your sphere? How are we going to communicate with those people when you decide to exit the business? When you exit the business, is it going to be a transition, or is it going to be, I'm going to go, 5 days a week and then I'm going to stop cold turkey. You know, have you thought about how you'd exit the business, right? So everything is so interrelated. So if you can start to position your business so that it was ready to be transferred, even if it's not for decades, you'd be in a better place than you are today. And here's another analogy that I came across. And when I was looking at Howard's business, we're talking about transacting together. I'm very critical. I'm looking at all the numbers, seeing hey, what's good, what's bad. And what occurred to me is I needed to look at my business as if I was buying my own business to see how healthy I was. Right? So when you look at yourself as if you're buying your own business, you'll discover some opportunities to improve, okay, to make that business better. So that was just like a random thought I had from my own life. So this lender that I met, they spent, Wilson, was it 8 to 12 or 9 to 1 that they spent 4 hours, everybody dedicated to a time?
I think it was 8 to 12.
I believe so, right? Wilson, thumbs up, yay? All right.
Sorry, my thing's not working. Yeah, it was 8 to 12 every day. They dedicated.
Yeah. And the loyalty to the brand, because they kept them accountable, was off the charts, right?
Yeah, he hasn't. Steve has not had anyone leave to another company, I believe, in 10 years.
Yep. And it was because Steve was the owner of the company, right?
Yeah.
So Steve had an impact on all of his originators' lives so that they would never leave. And I think he only had, what, 6 people, 5 people in the company?
6 total people. Six LOs and two assistants.
And the reason why they had 6 LOs was not because they can't hire more, but was because they wanted to maintain the culture. Right?
They previously had a branch with 48 LOs and multiple different teams, and Steve purposely switched to the smaller business practice because it was the people that bought into the culture.
Yeah. So that was the nexus for our meeting today, and I think it's really powerful to consider running your business on purpose, right? Ending the roller coaster of the business. The best agents, okay, the agents that I respect the most, when a transaction craters, they don't even blink. I remember I talked to an agent, this is going back probably a year or two into the pandemic, and they were doing very well. The business was abundant. They had taken a transaction coordinator and elevated their role to do everything in the transaction process, including solving issues with regard to home inspection items and other things that come up, right? Raise your hand if there are issues that come up in a transaction, right? There always are. Raise your hand again if you're the one that has to solve them. Okay, that's limiting, folks. This person said to me, look, as I'm growing my business, my transaction coordinator has been with me for 3 years. They know exactly how I resolve transactions. I'm in all out chaos right now because the business was so abundant. Whatever possible benefit there might be by me handling that transaction myself, I get a better outcome by having Cindy handle the transaction more timely. And if the transaction fails, I don't even blink because I know that Cindy was dealing with it, more expedited. Okay. And I know that Cindy knows how I've thought over the 3.5 years we worked together. So I was comfortable with basically endorsing that responsibility over to Cindy. And that was the only way that they could grow. Right? Because we all think like, oh, this is a trend. this is a negotiation over an inspection item or whatever the problem is, I need to be involved in it. Okay, well, hate to burst your bubble, but there are other people that can help handle those things if you train them. Probably pretty soon there's like artificial intelligence that will do it better than us. But for now, maybe somebody that we train that can handle that. Many of us are afraid to let somebody else go on a home inspection. They might feel like, oh, my client will be annoyed that I didn't think they were important enough to attend. Anybody feel that way? You want to volunteer and say, I have to go to the inspection because my clients expect me to go? All right, nobody's owning up to it.
Send your assistant.
All right, so Robert Garver, and we
I
have,
typically do show up to home inspections.
and why do you do that?
Because I'm all in with my clients, 100%. So I want to be there with them, not during the inspection, but we'll meet at the end, right? Meet the home inspector, walk through the property, so I have a better grasp of what's going on.
Do you believe that it's necessary for you to be there?
Not necessary, because I know a lot of agents don't do it. It's just this level of service I want to provide to the buyer clients that I represent. I'm all in.
So, you know, somebody, not somebody, but several people have had this similar belief, right? And they feel like, oh, I don't want to be pawned off on a team member or another associate because they might think that they're not important to me. Well, if you were to say, you know, Brian, I got a request from the inspector to see the to do the inspection on Thursday at 11 a.m., you know, I'm actually booked then, but the good news is I can have one of my team members or my associates show up there for you. Does that work?
I think that that's equally as good. At least you're having that conversation with the buyer, you know, when that inspection is. And if you are booked, you can't be in two places at one time.
Oh, but could you also be booked doing some prospecting, right? Because if we know we're supposed to be doing certain things for 2 to 4 hours a day, right? So I'm supposed to be making my calls between, you know, 9 and 11. And I'm going to tell you a little secret here, okay? Just between us here. A lot of people like, oh, Pablo, that's great. I got to go to a home inspection. I don't have to make my calls today. Do you think you think that's possible that could happen?
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to show up at a home inspection than to do your prospecting.
Procrastination, yeah. Looking, what do they call it? Looking for the elephant? Yeah, looking for an excuse.
They're looking for the past. And I say that tongue in cheek, but if you think about it truly, you know, look, I respect everybody that goes to home inspections, and I know you're doing a great job for your client, but you're limiting your expansion if you do that. And you just have to understand what that means, right? You can't do everything. Go ahead.
Let me just say this, you know, to that point of limiting your expansion. I mean, if I'm showing my clients my total commitment to them, then they're going to be telling their friends and relatives about this realtor that they had who was totally committed to them. So I think we're getting the expansion either way. I guess in my marketplace, which, maybe it's different because it was sort of a high-end marketplace where I felt that my clients really deserved to have me be there at every point in the transaction, and I worked my schedule to be available to them. And I think it came back to me in the people that they sent to me after the transaction.
So I admire that. I think it's you know, clearly that works for you, but I would say that there's a way that you can spin it and still be successful if that's your desire. And we can I don't even want to say we can agree to disagree because it's not even disagreeing, but there are different business models, Robert, that work for different outcomes that you're looking for, right?
Right.
And
Rob,
yeah,
sorry. I think it comes back to when you talk to us about our hourly worth. I think it comes back to weighing what's valuable, most valuable in your time. I think if you have a competent person attend that inspection, and then you let your client know that you briefed them on everything, that they know the inspector, and that you will be reviewing everything that the inspector returns to you personally. So I think there's different spins you can have, but I see the point you're making, the value of what our time is worth and investing in what's going to bring us the best return. Not to disagree with you, Robert. I understand what you're saying. If
I'd
you
like
have
to
a,
make a-
if you have a multi-million-dollar customer, since I'm, very familiar with that market, they are going to expect you to be there. And I agree with that. But a lot of times we have good customers, good clients that have been with us for years, and we don't want to disservice them, but we want to give them support. And if you have somebody that you can depend on and rely on and trust and convey that trust to the buyer, I think it can work.
I remember Adam Contos, and I think he still has the podcast, but I haven't listened to it for a while, but the Start with a Win. But anyway, I was listening to it a couple of years ago, and I forget his guest, but his guest was talking about this concept of not doing everything yourself. And the analogy he used was he had a heart condition and he researched and he found the very best surgeon, to do this procedure that he needed. This guy had an incredible track record. He was the guy. So he goes to see this guy. He never met him, ever. All his people did everything, his people did the consults, his people did the testing, but of course the guy did the surgery and it was very successful. And then his staff did all the follow-up and so forth. So his point was, you got to figure out where you're really adding value in the transaction, which is mostly negotiating the deal. And then all the ancillary parts can truly often be done by other people, but I understand it's difficult to do it.
There is, if I can, there is one more thing, and this was a training that I heard over and over and over again from an attorney. And the attorney said there had been lots of lawsuits regarding inspections. And the biggest one that had to do with real estate agents is when a real estate agent was there at the inspection with the buyer, and the real estate agent didn't hear everything. So the inspector's like, well, I said such and such. And the real estate agent said, well, I don't recall hearing that, but there was quite a defect in a home. And when the real estate agent was there, it was expected that the real estate agent heard all of it. So a lawsuit came out, the buyer ended up suing the realtor and the inspector, and the buyer won because it is assumed if the realtor's there, the realtor knows. So he had seen lawsuits over and over, and he's a real estate attorney and he's also a realtor. So what he said clearly was the inspections between the buyer and the inspector, not between the realtor and the inspector. So he made it very clear that the realtor needs to make it clear that it is between the buyer and the inspector. That is a whole separate contract.
Yeah, I had an incident with an agent with the Department of Professional Regulations. That's our governing department here in Florida. And she did, which afterward, I did not allow my agents to do any walkthroughs. People are out of town, they want you to do a walkthrough. And it was bizarre and stupid. Make a long story very short. Furniture was sent to the owners. It was over a rental. Furnitures were sent to the owners in California. And when the furniture came, the bed slats from underneath the bed were cracked. So the owner, landlord, filed a complaint against the realtor because she had done the walkthrough and didn't advise them of that. So they didn't take that out of the deposit when they returned the monies. I know a lot of the inspectors at the department, and I called them and I said, listen, did you expect her to shimmy underneath the bed? And he laughed and he said, well, Colleen, let me tell you, if you take on that responsibility, you take on that job.
Right. So Colleen, that goes under the no good deed goes unpunished, right?
Exactly. So you
So-
really have to, you have to weigh what's valued in your time. What I simply said to my agents is, look, I don't care if a neighbor, a friend, a cousin, anybody does it, you just tell them that that's not in your preview. You don't do that.
Right.
You don't do those walkthroughs.
I want to move off because we have 10 minutes left. Look, there's no absolutes in this business. And the one thing I have learned over my 30 plus years being in the industry is everybody's success is unique, right? There's a lot of similarities. And I believe, so deeply that if we were able to share with each other what we're doing, we're all going to get there a little bit quicker. And everybody's going to have a different resource or a different value that they pick from the sharing, right? And if you can't get over not being there at the open house, and that's something that, or not the open house, the inspection, then be there, okay? But you certainly don't need to be there if there's a CO inspection, right? You can train somebody to do that. There might be things in the CO inspection that, if you have a little bit of a resourcefulness and you can communicate, right? Like, how many times have people had a fire inspector or a CO inspector come out there and, they might have failed it, but you say, hey, I'll run over to 7-Eleven, I'll get 2 fresh batteries, I'll take care of that. They're like, oh, I trust you, we'll let you go, right? As opposed to getting a red sticker and then having to reapply again if that applies to you in your township, right? But don't mix that up with that you have to be at your CO inspections, because that's going to be, morally irresponsible. How's that for strong words? And the reason why I say it's morally irresponsible is because you have a duty, if you are committed to what you do, to help as many people as you can. And if you're putting stamps on envelopes, or you're running to the township with a check, or you're waiting 4 hours to meet the inspector, you're denying other people access to your level of expertise and service, which is morally irresponsible. Okay, those are pretty strong words, but I really believe it. Okay, you have a duty to be doing the most effective thing so you can serve as many people as possible. Okay, so how do you like those apples? I'm going to give you, this is not something that is directly related to what we're doing, but it's related to some of the content I absorb. And I'm going to give you guys and ladies a couple of tips. One tip is, if you use the same password for a lot of your content, raise your hand. Okay. You must, and I'm going to say this, you must immediately have a separate password for your email than you have for all of your other logons. Who has the same password for their email that they might have for their bank account? Anybody?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
And the reason why I say this is because, let's say a vendor gets hacked, right? If they can get into your email, they can go reset your other passwords by going phishing, and then they can rip you off. So if you have a tendency to use the same or a similar password for some of your services that you subscribe to, make sure that you have a completely different strategy for your email, your recovery email. Now, I don't have the same one, but I'm sure over time I've had the same password for my email, and I never thought next level. Never thought how to prevent the fraudster. And another tip from I'm surprised I didn't know this.
We're gonna let them see it.
But
Yeah,
who
yes.
who enjoys paying their
Yeah,
taxes?
yeah, I figure we're giving them
Hold
enough.
on.
Well, and if he does, we'll see what happens in the meantime.
All right, so who
Nope.
enjoys paying your income taxes? I'm sure
Nobody.
nobody, right? But here's a good tip that I found. It's you can pay your taxes and make money when you pay your taxes. Who's in for that? Okay, so simply put, instead of writing a check or doing an ACH for your taxes, you can pay them at a site called payusatax.com, or just write down, Google it, PayUSA Tax. And it's a 1.8% fee to do it. And if you have a 2% credit card, you make a profit on paying your taxes. All right. I've used other services if I had to, just for convenience, and it costs a lot more than that. So PayUSA Tax, a way to arbitrage your income tax payment to the IRS.
Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome. So anybody have any suggestions for the group on what you might want to do as one of your purposes for the day? You know, certainly I think Monday should be dedicated to following up on all the activity during the weekend. I think when you meet with a client and this house isn't for them, always establish the next step, right? So this one doesn't work for me. Okay, well, when can we get together? You know, in an open house, you know, always go next level, set the expectation for the next meeting. You know, but we have a gold mine, you know, in our database of people that, you know, we've worked with that have not successfully conducted a transaction, right? If you're a big listing agent and how many appointments have you gone on that they didn't list the house, right? I'm sure we've had some. And are you staying in touch with those people for when they're ready? Right? Have you ever been on a listing appointment where they weren't ready? And then they said, hey, you know, probably in a year or two, and then 4 months later, you see it hit the hot sheet.
Mm-hmm.
How does that feel?
Follow up, follow up, follow up.
Painful.
I
So,
think five sphere calls a day is a good plan.
On Monday.
Just make easy every day. If you're in the car driving, you've got plenty of time. Just call, say hello. You touch that base. You have to touch them more than just with postcards or a newsletter. You can't do better than speaking to someone.
So, you know, Trish had put something in the chat, Trish Lahine from Scottsdale, about international buyers. I actually was meeting with an agent who at the real estate conference, and one of their team members is out of state, and hopefully they'll be with us soon. But they put an ad in the newspaper in Long Island, a print ad, and this person was the team leader's daughter here. So she was probably in her 20s. I'm like, newspaper? Was she crazy? She got 2 buyers for the west coast of Florida from a newspaper ad in Long Island. Okay, 2 seniors that don't use the computer, and there was nobody else advertising there.
Beth, do you remember that book you loaned me about the podcast? Well, there was actually a successful agent that also did that in California, believe it or not.
So another way of thinking, like, I don't know that I'm still a proponent, Anna, of spending money for an ad, But you know what the next best thing to that is talking to the agents in that market. You know, if you're in Western Florida and you know that the people are coming from Long Island, you know, why not build relationships with agents in Long Island? Okay. Just like we're doing here with building relationships between New Jersey, Virginia, Florida, Arizona, right? You can do that outside. You know, maybe they're Remax agents, maybe they're independent. You know, people are people. So there are a lot of different things that we can do, and they don't happen unless they're scheduled. They don't happen unless we're inspired, right? You know, success doesn't happen by accident, and if it does, it's like a lottery winner. You know what happens to most lottery winners?
Yeah.
What happens to most lottery winners?
They
They die broke.
lose everything.
They die broke, right, Lisa? They lose everything. So don't hope to get lucky. Be intentional, and don't let anybody take away what's yours. You know, embrace your moral obligation to defend your time and help as many people as you can, because that's what this business is really about. You know, it's about helping people, helping yourself and your own family, and if you do well, you know, and you tripled your income next year, you can donate to charities. You can do things that you don't have the ability to do when you're struggling or when you're concerned. So everybody have a great weekend. As always, it's a pleasure spending an hour with you. And if anybody has any questions, I'll stay on for a couple of minutes. If not, have a productive rest of your day.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank
Great
you, Rob.
meeting.
Stay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye
Thank
now.
you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Rob.
Yes.
So I got a open house that I'm doing around the corner from me this weekend. I'm doing it for another agent. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I'm just trying to find it because so the niche here is that if this doesn't work out for a walk-in, I can just bounce it off somebody else. Obviously, I don't know the level of traffic because it's over 1.2 million. I've not seen traffic since he's had this open house. Does it need to be reduced? Yes, because it's been, I think, 170 days on market, I believe. He's planning on reducing the price. So I already got one house that I'm bouncing off that he's doing an open house for, and I might have possibly another one. Now, what materials besides the main materials do I need to bring? Like, I'd like to approach this differently. You know, number one, getting traffic, social media, but obviously that's just
Well,
social media.
let me tell you a few stupid basic things, okay?
Mhm.
One is, if you're
That's
allowed,
fine.
put out
That's fine.
a tremendous amount of directional signs.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Okay, that they cost
Okay.
you nothing. Secondly, now this is for a coworker in the office, or you're listing?
No, it's actually another brokerage in town.
Okay, so another broker. So here's what I would do is I would focus on satisfying the client, because we all know that, you know, I don't know, probably less than 1% of the people that walk into the open house buy that house, right? Do you know that, right?
Don't know that, no.
I think there's stats on that. Does anybody know what those stats are? I'm sure that if there's
3%.
it's okay,
3%. Okay, thanks.
So 3% buy that house. That means that 97% that house doesn't work, right? So
Okay.
you can be like the traditional agent, try to force somebody to love that house, or you can be prepared and say, do you mind if I send you a text or an email with some of the other houses that are similar? Okay, feel free to go by and do a drive-by. And by the way, if you're comfortable with me, you can say that I'm working with you. Possibility, right?
Okay.
You could also think bigger and bring a coworker there, right? And then alternate when somebody comes in and they don't like that house. You could have appointments set up for the 2 or 3 competing houses that are similar criteria, and say, hey, you know, I'm sure you're busy. You know, if you're okay, I have appointments at 3 o'clock to see these 3 houses. I can take you there. right?
Okay.
Has anybody ever done that?
All the time. I think
Yeah.
there's two things going on. If I can actually add, just because I do a lot of open houses and I talk about that all the time. So we're talking about how do we get traffic to the open house, and then how do we convert opportunity at the open house. And I'll speak on the traffic side because Rob did a great job speaking on the conversion side. The traffic side, it's like, it's an event. An open house is an event. It's not you showing up 15 minutes before and just hoping that the MLS did the work. If you were planning a birthday party, you'd want to get the invitations out, right? You'd want to make sure you RSVP people. You want to make sure that there's some fun and excitement involved because people want to go to a place that's exciting. I think what we do as realtors is we get lazy with the concept of an open house. An open house is an event. It's exciting. And so when we're out there, getting ready and we're planning our RSVPs, we're not going the day of to give out RSVPs. No one would show up, right? So what we need to do is we need to go out a couple days before. You need to go to the whole neighborhood and give them the good news that you have an open house this weekend, and bring some food or have a prize, like a bottle of wine, to say we've got a great prize for all the locals. We believe that locals talk to all their friends and family, and they're their biggest fans and advocates of their neighborhoods. We're wanting to let you know about this exclusive open house, and we're opening it up an hour before for the neighbors to come through, and we have a special prize for you, and we'd love for you to be there. And you go
That's
hit
nice.
up 40 to 60 houses, and now you're not leaving it up to chance. Many realtors are just lazy. They're just not doing the work to put on an event. And they lucked out in a hot market when it didn't matter what you did, you'd have 20 people show up. Well, we're not in that market anymore. So we need to create opportunity. And so that's what I wanted to share on that. And then as far as the conversion side, I believe you need to have a sign-in form with qualifying questions on it. And you can just say, hey, thank you for coming. How did you hear about the open house? Due to safety restrictions in my office policy, I need you to go ahead and fill out this form. And if you have any questions about the house, I'm here. I'm not going to, breathe down your neck. I'm just here to answer any questions and help you with the market. And oh, by the way, here are some listings in the neighborhood that are in the similar price point, and maybe something for you to drive by and take a look at.
Yeah, usually you have the listings available, but I feel like maybe I might give it out too early, there's something about giving out that listing too early or waiting to make that appointment and just have an encounter again after the open house. I don't know. It's like, do I give them the information as they call me? I'd be happy to show you these houses if you're interested after you do a drive-by. And by the way, Alex, thank you so much for that, for like the refresher, and the detail, because that was useful. Yeah, we do
Right,
get
so-
lost in thinking it's an open house. We have here in Celebration the opportunity to put it in a town hall. People love to go to town hall and pick up these open house flyers. And then that's how they know there's a spot. Culprit is, there's not enough sign. We're limited on how we can put signs here in Celebration lawfully.
Yeah, it's all relationship. But like what I was going to say to you is when you go and you say, here's the listings in the area, there's really that's not enough for me to hook me. But what if I said to you, I said something like this, I'd say, hey, I know of a property that's actually down the street that just had a massive price improvement. I think that would be a good fit for you. Do you mind if I send you that information?
Yeah, because you want to get their information and you want to.
Well, you want to give them enough value for them to say, you know what, you're speaking my language. I'm looking for a good deal. And yes, I would love that information. When can you send it to me? You want to leave them curious and excited. You want to provide value. Go ahead, Rob.
Abe, hang on for a second. So hold on, Alex and Anna. This is Abe and his twin brother.
Okay.
So, go ahead. Is coming on after hours here.
Okay.
So Abe, you're on mute, Abe. So hi to your brother. And anyway, Anna,
Hey, here he is. Rob, Nathan, say hello to Rob. Hello, Rob. Hi.
How are you? Yeah,
All right.
I love your brother. I'm sure I'd love you if I got to know you.
He's a professor. He's a professor in Essex, in Newark, with what's the name of the school you're with? Who are you with?
St. Thomas Aquinas.
He's with Thomas Aquinas. He does a lot of teaching online, but he's based out of Newark. So
Fantastic, fantastic. So, nice to meet you. Lastly, and I wanted to say, think outside the box and do some things differently, right? Especially at that price point, and you can have a different outcome.
it's not talking to you. Bye, Rob.
Bye-bye. So if you think outside the box, with your listings and you set up, alternatives and you just take care of the client, because I believe you can't force somebody to buy something that's not right for them. So when you're doing an open house, if that house doesn't fit and you're not prepared to offer them alternatives, okay, and you're like, oh, well, let me look this up. Somebody's going to come there. They're going to be in that price range. And if you're not prepared, shame on you, shame on us, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Anyway,
always
Alex,
prepared.
what are your thoughts on that, buddy? Alex is muted.
I said we're here to make the most of our time, and I think there's listings that you can be picking up in the neighborhood. You do your walk around, inviting them exclusively to the event. You can say, oh, by the way, next Thursday, I'm actually doing a bunch of home evaluations for a lot of the neighbors in the neighborhood. Do you mind if I came by and gave you a price of your house for free? Like, who's gonna say no to that, right?
That's awesome.
And we're just like, right, and just like, let's go create listings. Open houses create listings. Open houses create buyers. But you've got to invest in the open house. Don't let the open house fool you. It is really what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. Don't be lazy. That's all I can say. Don't be lazy. Don't show up 15 minutes before and just turn the lights on and lock the door, on the way out. Like, you're investing your precious weekend time where you can be with your family, or you could be out showing houses, or you could be out getting listings. So if that's your prospecting time, make sure you value it. It's very important. Very important.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alex.
Of course.
All right. So everybody have a fantastic weekend. Good luck at your open house. Let us know how that works out. All right.
That'd be
I
awesome.
will.
Thank
I will.
Thanks.
Thank
everybody.
you very
guys.
much. Take care.
Bye now.